Hi, and welcome to today's Pick a Card reading. So today's Pick a Card reading is called What Do They See in You? All right. So this is going to be speaking about your person, yes, but we're also talking about general people in general. Like, what do they see in you? What are things about you that stick out to other people? These are things that are attractive qualities about you, and these qualities are things that you can kind of look to as being strengths in social situations. Now, some of these might not resonate the way that you might expect, and just understand that other people looking in at you might see something different about you than you would think you project more about yourself. If you feel like you have a certain personality characteristic or something like that that you want people to notice more, just make it louder in some way. Just draw more attention to it, okay? Because I mean, we can definitely do that. I mean, there's tons of tutorials online about how to draw people's attention to your eyes or your lips or whatever. You can do the same thing with personality characteristics. I just wanted to explain that, you know, this is what first impressions and what generally people are attracted to when they think about you. All right, guys? All right, so now that I've explained what the reading's about, just wanted to say anything you need to know about me is going to be in the description. That's going to be timestamps for this. This is going to be, you know, how to get a private reading and that kind of stuff. It's all going to be down there. And at the end, I do have some news. It's just, I mean, it has to do with channel schedule and stuff like that. So if you want to catch that, I do have a timestamp for that as well. That said, let's go ahead and name the piles and then we can start the reading. All right, so pile number 1 is the green bow. Pile number 2 is the blue bow. Pile number 3 is the orange bow. Pile number 4 is the yellow bow. Pile number 5 is the brown bow, and pile number 6 is the white bow. All right, so if you haven't picked the pile yet, go ahead and pause the video so you can pick. Otherwise, we are going to start with pile number 1. Hi, those of you who picked the green bow, here is your reading. Okay, so we have throat chakra, okay, the Hermit, and the Lovers. Okay, now, so you're one of those rare people who are very attractive physically, because we do have this physicality here. We have hope, okay, choices, and okay, now this card, I'm probably gonna have to explain it in every single pile, but this card I picked, it's a divine feminine card, and I understand that there's not just ladies that watch this, but I wanted to pick this because it's kind of like that yielding feminine energy that's attracted, you know, that people are attracted to. And so each card describes a figure, okay, a feminine figure that has reached some kind of level of divinity. And so yours is Teresa of Avila, and this is Our Lady of the Interior Life. I trust the answers I find within me. I know that the presence of love is... Sorry about that. There's a phone in here I didn't expect to be in here. Anyway, I know that the presence of love is real. So I just wanted to kind of show that to you so you could see that. The reason that I read that blurb out loud instead of just talked about it is because I think that that's pretty much the message of the Hermit, okay? So from this, I would gather that people see you as somebody who is introverted or at least mindful, okay? Reflective, that you make sure that you digest things fully before you speak on them, okay? And with the throat chakra, what you say, it's like there's a quality of what you say that you come across as being a lot more sincere and a lot more honest than other people. You also come across as being more authentic to your own self than other people do, okay? I feel like you're the kind of person that a lot of people would be like, okay, that person, they really know themselves. They really know themselves well, okay? At the same time, I feel like, you know, with the Lovers coming out, there is a social aspect of this in that I feel like you're a study, like you study humanity, like, and I don't mean that you necessarily have to be in the humanities as far as a career or anything. I just mean that you are kind of fascinated with why people act the way they do, and why people are the way they are, and that kind of thing. You know, a lot of people are. I do want to mention that, so that might kind of sound like a blanket statement. But the reason I'm saying that is because we have the throat chakra and the lovers, which talk about kind of mirroring information back to one another, and it's a card that shows people people who really like to study the human disposition. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that. I'm not just saying that because it will apply to most people. I'm saying it because the Lover card speaks to that kind of quality. Okay, so when I say it about you guys, I really mean it. Let's just put it that way. You know, I honestly would not say that about everybody, but you know, I'm just very aware of the tricks people use when they do cold readings versus, you know, what we're doing here. Anyway, so yeah, when we're talking about an introverted personality, or a person that appears introverted, or at least reflective, going on their inner guiding light, going on their own authenticity, but then we bring in this social aspect, it's like there is this kind of like, to know oneself, you know others. And so that gives me the impression that it's not really, I don't see you so much as withdrawn from people. I just see you as more objective of them, and more like you study them. Okay. And that's all that I mean about that. So yeah, we've talked about your authenticity. We've talked about your truth and how that is conveyed. You also have just a way of speaking. You might be a musician, or a singer, or somebody who communicates very well with sound. You know, you might be the kind of person that just knows a good song to listen to for different situations and stuff like that. You might be very sensitive to auditory things, because it's like this, the throat chakra isn't just about speaking and being intelligent the way that the throat chakra is associated with. It's also about using sound effectively. Okay, so it might be also that they notice that you have maybe a lyrical soul, might be a way of describing it. So there's that as well. And now, speaking of the more intellectual side of the throat chakra, and I think it's kind of impossible to be a person that looks within without having that cerebral side as well. We have this card that's about choices, and it's like, I feel like a lot of people respect your choices, not just because they're sound, but because you have a ready explanation about why you do the things that you do, and it's consistent and it makes sense. And people tend to like other people that make sense because they don't have to guess so much with them. I'm not saying that you're not unique. I'm just saying that people, like, once people figure out your patterns, they can typically predict what you're going to be doing. They know that if you say, okay, I'm going to do this thing, that you're really going to do it. You're not just talking about how, oh, it would be nice to do this, but I don't have time. You know, you wouldn't say that. You would say, or if you thought that, you would say it exactly that way, so that nobody would be confused about your intentions. It's like, if you say you've made a decision on something, or if you say that you're going to do something, you mean it. You're actually going to do it. So I think that that's another thing that people really are attracted to about you. I can say I personally am really attracted to people who do this, because I tend to take people seriously just because it seems like the safest thing to do. So when somebody tells me that they're going to do something, I typically assume that they're self-aware enough to mean that that's what they're going to do. And I find myself oftentimes confused when people don't do what they say they're going to do, or they don't act in accordance to that, or they don't let me know that something has changed and they're going to, you know, do it in a different time or whatever. So this is valuable to me personally. So you're my people. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, this is really good. But I mean, but then there's another aspect of this self-reflection, and the fact that you do look at humanity in a way, and you do generally want to connect with that. I think that I should have mentioned that with the Lovers card, because again, like I said, there is the mirroring aspect of it, and there is that like kind of need to be social when it comes through, especially if it's describing a personality. But with the Lovers, it also has this like, there's a desire to connect as well. And that's what I was speaking on when I say that you like to study humanities, you like to find out why people are the way they are. It's because you want to connect with them. And other people feel that about you. They feel that sincerity. They feel that desire with you. And because they feel that from you, maybe it's the way you talk, maybe it's the way you present yourself, but however they discern that, they feel really special when you're giving them attention, because they know that you really do want to understand them. And it's probably another aspect of the throat chakra with listening, okay? So along with this, there's this kind of almost dreamy and idealistic quality of you. And that's not to say that you're not pragmatic or that you can't make things happen or whatever, but there's an aspect about you that's it's dreamy and it almost sometimes comes across as naive, but it's only comes across that way because you've studied whatever you're talking about in what others might say is a naive way. You're really just simplifying a very, very complex thought down to its essence. And you're really good at doing that. And because of that, you appear very, like, much more positive than maybe you might feel. And you feel, and it feels like your essence has this sense of buoyancy, this sense of hope with it that, you know, while you appreciate and definitely reflect on all the complexities and nuances of the human experience, you also have this ability to simplify it as well, as in something very, very, very succinct. So I think that it's also interesting that this is kind of like, it's like this, but oh yeah, there's this one extra thing that's kind of this little quirk, you know, and that's another thing that's very attractive about you. And then I just want to kind of go back to the Lovers again. I know that I keep going back to it, but it's just, it says the most, I think, or well, it says quite a bit. Is that you are probably physically attractive as well. If you don't think you are, there's probably something about you that is very charismatic, okay? Because with the Lovers, you know, we are talking about that kind of like sex appeal, that kind of thing. You know, I actually turned 40 last year. I know, it probably doesn't feel like I'm 40, but I did. I turned 40 last year. And when I look at pictures of myself in my 20s, I'm like, oh, I wish I knew I was that beautiful, you know? So it might be one of those things that maybe your perspective might not reflect your being aware of how beautiful you are, but you're definitely physically attractive in a way that most people would agree that you're physically attractive. It's not like, people see your special kind of attractiveness. No, like generally people are attracted to you physically. And this could be either some kind of feature, your proportions, or it could even be just your disposition, okay? So I do want to mention that as well. But anyway, so yeah, we've got a lot of information here, a lot of different skills that you can draw on when you're thinking about socializing. And also, this is what's going to attract the person to you, okay? Regardless of whether you have a person or you're hoping to have a person or you're trying to attract someone to you, understand this is what attracts them, okay? So this can be stuff that you kind of look at and use. You know, don't think of it as a manipulative thing, because I don't mean it like that. It's just, these are your strengths. And by knowing your strengths, then you can kind of get on a good path where it's like you're putting your best face forward so that other people can see you and see what's so attractive about you, why they would want to get to know you better. Because ultimately, especially with your authenticity, the real you is going to shine through. It's just that these are the points of light that kind of like where the eye wants to rest. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. I really like that reading. I hope the rest are as great as yours is. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you have a great day. All right. Hi, those of you who picked the blue bow, here is your reading. This is an interesting one. I mean, like the very first one is kind of interesting. Okay, so we have money. All right, we have the 10 of coins, which is a card that shows wealth, okay? We have the Two of Swords. We have Innocence. That's interesting. We have Competition. And just wanted to explain real quick. I had to do it. I'm probably going to have to do it with all of the readings. But this card, it's from a deck that's about the divine feminine. Okay, so this is gonna. I understand that not just ladies watch this, but we're gonna talk about the softer side. Okay, and each divine feminine card is associated with a woman. Okay, usually a saint or someone who has reached some sort of divinity by human standards. Okay. So what you got Saint Bridget, Our Lady of Exalted Light, a very important figure in Celtic cultures. And her quote is, "I give endlessly because the light is without end. My soul is all I need." All right. So it's like you are a beacon of light yourself. And that is probably why you are perceived as being so successful. Because really, when we talk about competition, when we talk about money, when we talk about the 10 of coins, we're talking about abundance. We're talking about someone who succeeds. We're talking about someone who wins, somebody who knows what they want and goes out and gets it. We're talking about somebody who has a lot of power, okay? And somebody who, just somebody who is able to create a lot of different experiences for themselves. Okay, so even if you find yourself saying, "Well, I don't really have a whole lot of materials, or I don't really have a whole lot of money," it's like you go after what you want, though, and you typically get what you want, and you're typically a shrewd person. Okay, and that's attractive for other people. Now, please don't misinterpret this like people want you for your money or people want you because you have money. It's because they're drawn to the success. They're drawn to, well, I can explain it this way. They're drawn to the idea that when people complete goals, there is actually a dopamine release in the brain. And this tends to be why people who set goals tend to end up setting more goals and becoming more and more successful, because they kind of get addicted to the idea, to literally their brain releasing all of this dopamine when they succeed in a goal. So when they see you and they see you reaching your goals and completing your objectives, and maybe your goal is, I'm going to take a class, or maybe your goal is, I'm going to read a book, maybe your goal is, I'm going to make $1,000 today, or whatever it is. They see your excitement about that. They see you immersed in that creative energy and that energy of wanting to excel and to be excellent. Okay. And because you have that, people see you as being quality, a very quality person, somebody who has substance, okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be material gains. It could be that you have a lot of substance. You have a lot of maybe knowledge and expertise in a certain area or multiple areas, and when it comes to competition, you don't have to necessarily be a competitive person in order for this card to apply to you. It's probably just saying that in a competition, you would win by your natural abilities, because you're probably naturally either very smart or very ambitious, or maybe you're naturally very calm, so you don't bend under pressure. Whatever it is that helps you to succeed in areas of your lives, that's what really shines brightly for you. And but unlike people who succeed and are kind of how can I put this? Because I don't want to sound real cynical about humanity. It's like some people can succeed, and then it kind of spirals into this very selfish, maybe narcissistic type, egocentristic kind of personality. And I don't get that about you. I get that you're humble about this. And because you're humble about this, because of that, it's like you want to share that success with others. So I also feel like you're very good at teaching other people exactly what you learn yourself and what you do yourself. And it's that generosity of spirit that is also kind of glues you, you know, like it's like first a person's attracted because you have this like positive energy, and then they're kind of glued in because there's substance behind that, whether it's knowledge or skill or ambition or just some kind of or perspective. That's probably going to be a key word, and I'll explain why in just a minute. But, that's something that is really, it's a big deal about you. I think it's interesting that we get this innocence card too, to just kind of soften what might seem like a very hard kind of surface. Is just, you do this without meaning to. You can't help that you're successful. You can't help that you're good at what you do. Or, it's not like, it's an effortless thing to you. You're not doing things to be better than other people or to set yourself at a hierarchy or anything like that. It's like you do this and it's just what you do, and that's it, and that innocence surrounding it is also very, very attractive to people, because most people, when they meet you, and when they kind of start getting to know you, they realize that you defy a lot of stereotypes. And they like that. They like being surprised. Because it really, it really brightens it shines a light onto the human spirit. So we've got the Two of Swords here kind of in the middle of all of this energy, and it's like, ooh, but what's that about? That seems like it could be bad. One problem I've noticed with people who are really good at learning a lot of things, people who are polymaths, I love that word, but people who are really skilled at a lot of different, in a lot of different areas, or people who attract a lot of abundance and everything, is they see things from so many different perspectives that it can really get in the way of their ability to make a decision. Okay. Because they know, it's almost like they know too much to be able to decide, because they see the good and bad of all the different decisions. Or they see the good and bad in every person, and because of your nature, it's easier for you to look at the positive of people. Not that you don't recognize the negative, and not that you wouldn't get out of a negative situation if you were in one, but just that you might be more forgiving than other people. You might be a little bit more understanding than other people in some areas, but it might be really, really difficult for you to order something off a menu, right? It's like that. It's like there are certain areas in your life where it's going to be kind of difficult for you to make decisions, and it's all because you have a very large scope of what you're drawing your perspectives from. Okay, so that's one thing, and I don't think this is a negative thing. I just think that other people actually see why it's difficult for you to make decisions, and they find that endearing, rather than it being something where they see you as indecisive and it's like a negative thing. People actually like that you are able to see things from so many different perspectives. So this might seem like it's a weakness, but it's actually a strength when it comes to what attracts people towards you, okay? So one thing that you might actually even do when you're in a social situation is to lay out, like, okay, you're trying to order something off the menu. It's just a really easy example. And you say, well, I'd like this because of these things, and I'd like this because of these things. And then you can say, what do you think? And other people would love to step in and make those decisions for you. So that you can kind of get some direction from them, because they see that you've got all of this information, and I think that that's something that can help glue you to a person as well. So I really like this reading. I really like this kind of energy. It feels really, it just feels really positive. It feels really positive and happy. And another thing about this is that even if you might not feel positive and happy all that much, or all that, or even most of the time, you come across that way, all right? Because you're excited about life, because you are interested in life, right? So just wanted to make sure you understood that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Hope you liked your reading. Hi, those of you who picked the orange pile, here is your, oh goodness. Okay, so we have like a little bit of a naughty bit here. I just want to warn you guys. So we have sexuality come up. I'm going to go ahead and cover that up because I think that YouTube doesn't like stuff like that. So we have sexuality, we have the Chariot, we have the Ace of Wands, we have kindred spirits, okay, self-reliance, and this, I'm going to have to say this for every single pile. This card I picked to illustrate the divine feminine in those of you who are watching, and I understand that both men and women, people of all gender watch this, but I felt like the more yielding side of the human spirit would need to be represented in this, okay? So each card is going to be depicted by a woman who has reached some kind of divine status, okay? And so this one is Sarada Devi, the Divine Mother. Unconditional love exists within me. The presence of love is the absence of judgment. Okay, so I just kind of want to show that to you so you can understand where I'm coming from when I start interpreting that. Okay, so the Ace of Wands and the Chariot, we've got a lot of kind of intuitive, fiery energy actually here, which I think is interesting. People love your passion and your creativity. Oh my goodness. And with this self-reliance, I feel like, I think that there's something about you that taught you that you can't rely on other people, okay? I understand that saying self-reliance in a different way, but I think that that was something that was a negative experience for you, and you turned that into something positive by learning from that and learning how to be independent, at least in certain areas, okay? So that you wouldn't get hurt or you wouldn't get basically broken by a situation, right? So I feel like the self-reliance is kind of like a phoenix type energy of there was something that happened and it was negative and you rose out of the ashes and you became stronger. Okay, so I kind of see this as not just a static, like you're independent, but more of a transformative experience for you. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of mention that even these cards don't feel like very earthy. They feel very fiery and dynamic like that. So it's kind of an interesting thing there. Sexuality, okay, so there is probably something very mysterious, very sensual about you. There's probably something that holds intrigue about you. I wouldn't be surprised if you are one of those people who is like the conventional idea of what beauty is, but more likely, and I'm not saying that you guys aren't pretty, okay, please don't interpret it that way, but more likely there's probably something about you that's more on a charismatic level that is very the way that I'm seeing it is like just so intriguing. Like someone just hangs on your every word because they feel like you're going to show them something new that they've never experienced before. There's something very exciting about that. There's something, it feels almost naughty. It feels almost like there's something like when a person's around you, like they're almost taking a risk or something, but they want to take that risk. It's a very I wish I could have a better word for intrigue. It's like, it's an allure. There's this mystery. There's this like, ooh, I got to find out more. It's like your presence promises that something really unique is going to happen if somebody gets to know you better, that kind of thing. And it's a visceral thing. It's not because of the way that you hold yourself or what you say or anything like that. It's just your essence. And I think that that's really an interesting thing. Understand that some people who see that mystery might mistrust it And if you want to become more attracted to people who are less trustful of mystery, then you can be more well, not outgoing, but you can be more open about, what you say. So for example, you might typically ask a question of someone, right? If you feel like somebody might be a little mistrustful of you, you can ask them the same question, but then tell them why you're asking the question so that they feel like you're being more forthcoming with them. Because some people can be uncomfortable with mystery, because just think about it, the unknown, the wilderness, things that can't be explained. People mistrust that. However, that said, we have the Kindred Spirits card, and I really like that paired with all of this fiery energy. With the Kindred Spirits card, we're talking about a person who, it's like, people are attracted to you because of your vibe, and people are attracted to you because of your energy. And again, like I said, it feels like it's on this intuitive level. So there's this kind of vibe that you put out that people like. People feel good in your energy, or they feel pulled in. And I hate to describe it as a kind of snare, because it makes it sound like there's maybe something manipulative about you. This is completely, like, you don't mean to do this. This is just who you are. This is how you are. This is just how people respond to you. You're so singular. You're so unlike anything else. And then let's go back to the self-reliance here. Just let me pause a few minutes more on this, or a few seconds. The kindred spirit, we're talking about you probably have a lot of spiritual connections in your life. The people that are in your inner circle, for example, are probably people that you feel a connection on the soul level with. And there's probably multiple people like that. If you're looking at this reading specifically for one person, that one person that you're seeking information about, your connection and everything, that person is probably somebody that you've connected to on a spiritual level. And that's why this card's coming up, because there's this kind of like, again, it's like a vibe that other people with the same vibe pick up on, and then they're drawn to. Okay, so it's like that. Only I do want to mention, though, that doesn't mean that the other people that pick up on that vibe and kind of mesh well with you necessarily are also mysterious or are also self-reliant. It's something that goes beyond that kind of stuff. I think you guys probably already know that, but I just wanted to make sure I was clear. So we talk about the self-reliance in the Chariot. This is all about moving forward. There's a little element of ambition that comes with that, but it's not overstated. It's more like, for me, it feels more like you know what you want and you go after that. But there's less ambition associated with it, or less desire for necessarily any kind of selfish purposes or anything. It's just like, it's more experiential. It's more like you just want to experience something. And so you make your decision that's what you're going to make happen, and that kind of thing. So the self-reliance, the Chariot, which is talking about setting forth, it's typically is about the stage in life when a person has finished college and they've got enough skill and they've got enough information that they can kind of set out on their own and make their own way, right? So both of these cards speak to that energy. I feel that you are completely fine with being alone. You know that you could survive on your own, but that you prefer, or that you would prefer, to have somebody who's very close with you to share that with, okay? And I feel like that other people know that you could basically live without them, and that kind of creates this kind of duality where they want to kind of almost prove to you, but you need me, that kind of thing. So it's kind of an interesting, it's an interesting story. It's more like a myth that you play out rather than just a personality trait. For example, you've rose from the ashes. I feel like that's probably most of your stories. You've risen from the ashes and you've become self-reliable. You've become independent and all of that kind of stuff. And it's like somebody wants to rescue you from it's like this person comes in, so this would be anybody in the outside world looking at you. They see you and they're like, it's like they want to see if you can need something other than yourself, and they feel special if you can depend on them for something. I would say I personally probably have a lot of this energy, and my partner, for example. And I'm only mentioning this because I think it'll help you guys understand this concept better. My partner, for example, he knows how important it is for me to be my own independent self and to pursue my own things. And he knows that the way that I do that is through books. I read a lot. So he does this thing. I have an Amazon Fire tablet. This is not sponsored by Amazon in any way. I just do have a Fire tablet, and I use Kindle, and he has allowed me to use his credit card 100% of the time, every single time I buy a book, right? To me, that's the highest form of love, okay? Because he gives me access to, in philosophy, the Library of Alexandria, right? But for him, it's like, he sees me as being such an independent person and someone who is interested in pursuing intellectual pursuits and that kind of thing. But he likes that I can depend on him for the means of being independent. So that's an example of what I mean when it's like somebody will look at you and see how independent you are and all of that, but they want you to depend on them for something, you know? That's the kind of energy that you would draw in, is somebody like what my partner does for me, you know, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. The Ace of Wands, this is it's just talking about how you have a lot of new ideas. There's something very novel about you. I feel like you are kind of a trendsetter, somebody who is kind of like always on the precipice of what's about to happen next. You might have clairvoyance or some kind of psychic gift that's very developed, that might, I mean, and when I say developed, it doesn't necessarily mean that you put time into developing it. It might just be it's developed and it just shows itself, right? But the Ace of Wands energy is also a very creative card in that it shows like artistry. It also shows mastery over certain subjects and that kind of thing. But it also comes with it this feel of excitement, this feel of sharing with the world something unique. So I mean, it could come through as somebody who's very innovative and somebody who might even invent things, okay? So this can be on a level that's more mechanical and scientific, you know, and that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, music and the arts and that kind of stuff. It could be something else. That's just the first thing I think of when I think of creativity, okay, is music. But yeah, this could be like storytelling. It could be, you know, just anything that requires creative endeavor. But yeah, with the Ace of Wands energy here, it's just showing us that people, yes, there's a mystery to you, but there's also this excitement that comes from seeing you and meeting you and getting to know you with just how creative you are. Just the way that you think is very different and all of that. And that kind of aids at the intrigue. So yeah, so we have this, the Divine Mother and the unconditional love and all of that kind of stuff. I think that the biggest takeaway from this particular card is the no judgment, though. I think that you love unconditionally because it's in your nature to do that, not necessarily because it's a choice. Some people, believe it or not, actually have to make a choice to be unconditional in their love to other people. For you, you just don't judge people very often. Or when you do, it's like you have taken in so much information about this that your judgment is like very decisive and it's based on a lot of evidence, right? I feel like you are, you might be considered free-spirited and that kind of thing, but I feel like autonomy is really important to you. And so other people's autonomy is also important to you. So you can have somebody that you care about that might have different opinions than you do, or be just in a different like in a different area, like maybe the opposite of you, but you can still tolerate that because you like to celebrate other people's authenticity. You like to celebrate other people for who they are. And because of that, when you love unconditionally, because that's just the way that you do it. That it's almost like you can't understand why a person would love in any other kind of way. So this is definitely something that would attract people to you, especially people who are on the fringes of, people who might have felt like they haven't fit in very well, people who might be difficult to understand for most people, and that kind of thing. And because of that, you might attract some kind of weird people, and that can be both good and bad, right? But because of that, I feel like it's important for you to know that that's very, very attractive to other people, but other people can use that and almost kind of blindside you by kind of showing their true colors later on. So I think that might be both a strength and a weakness. So it's like for you, and I didn't expect this to come up in this reading, but for you, it's like you attract too many people, and your issue is more about, well, how to discern which ones to keep in your inner circle and that kind of stuff. So kind of keep that in mind. You don't have a problem attracting people, though. At least I'm not getting that you have a problem attracting people. And if you find that you're like, well, I've not attracted somebody in a while. Get involved in some kind of like online community. I understand things are difficult with the virus going on right now. And when I say that, I mean as of the time that I'm posting this. But, you can maybe join a small group, some kind of Zoom meeting. I don't know, but find ways where you can just interact with people, because they will come. I mean, they will be attracted to you. And it will not just be love relationships. I'm talking about all kinds of relationships, So, yeah, it looks like you're doing good. And I do also want to say, you're the kind of person that I would want to be friends with. I just want to mention that, because it's like this kind of energy is very attractive to me. Sensuality and all of that has its place. But what I like is a mystery. I like to be intrigued. I like to find people who are really, really unique and like piece them out and like try to figure them out. I promise I wouldn't put you like under a microscope in a lab somewhere, but I would like to be friends with you, that kind of thing. So I did want to kind of mention that even as I'm reading this kind of energy, I find myself being attracted to it. So I think that's kind of, this is an important part, because typically I tend to feel a lot more objective from the subjects, right, that I'm discussing when I give readings. But I feel myself being wanting to be reeled in. Like, I want to know your story. I want to know, it's just so it's even working on me. So, just kind of keep that in mind, So yeah, I'm sorry if it seems like I'm very, very prudent because I covered that up. Whatever, you can call me prudent, but it's just, I don't want to mess with YouTube. I don't want YouTube to be mad at me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed your reading. Hi, those of you who picked the yellow bow, here is your, oh goodness, I knew I was going to get this guy. Okay, I call him Drowny Guy. He comes up, when I picked this deck to do it, I was like, I know I'm going to get Drowning Guy, and it's going to be just a big disaster. And so, yeah, I got Drowning Guy. I have no idea why somebody decided to put this on a card. And really, I promise, this deck is a really amazing deck, okay? It's really great. It's chakra-oriented, and it really, it's, as a tool itself, it can help you understand chakras better, but it's got Drowning Guy in it. Like, why? He's drowning in a sea of like planets, and I just don't even get it. And then this is the card for communication. Somebody thought that this was a good idea. Like, probably more than one person, because there was the person who came up with this, then there was the artist, and then there was probably the person that published it. Assuming if it was 3 different people. So I just look at this and I'm like, 3 different people thought that Drowning Guy was like the best representation of communication. But anyway, so you got Drowning Guy. Interesting. You have the 10 of Swords as something that's attractive about you. We'll have to kind of see a little bit deeper into this. We've got Celebration. Okay. We have Go with the Flow. And this last one, I picked a Divine Feminine deck to read from. I understand that there might be men watching this, and I'm just talking about the more yielding feminine aspect of the personality. Each one of these cards will feature a woman who is divine or holy in some way, and what... oh my goodness, of course I'm not going to be able to pronounce this. When I got this was Khadijah, is I believe how to pronounce it, and it's the mother of believers. And her quote is, "I'm spiritually and financially abundant. I provide heaven and earth for myself." So I just wanted to show you the name and the quote so that you can figure out how that's pronounced. I'm sure some people are going to be able to comment back and tell me how I've mispronounced it, but but anyway. Okay, so wow, you have a lot of good energy. But it's very calm. It's very mellow, and it's almost like I just heard 10 of you go, "What?" Like I'm anxious all the time. How could you? What people are attracted to is that you're very adaptable. You might not keep your head in some of the smaller things, but when it comes to big things where most people would be freaking out, you are really good at keeping your head. Okay, so no matter how anxious you might feel inside, outwardly you keep your head about you, and you have a calming influence on other people. Okay, this Go with the Flow, I also believe that this is talking about how you're very like you get in a zone, and it might not be like a sports thing, because I know a lot of people say that about sports. It might just be that you get in this zone and you are good at creating, you're good at communicating. And maybe it's a zone you get into when you meditate, when you're concentrating really hard. Or maybe you might have what I call hyperfocus. I don't know if that's the actual word for it, but like if you're into something, you get really into it, and it's kind of like you kind of lose everything except what you're doing. And if you're startled, like if somebody like starts talking to you, you'll be like, ah, like because your startle response will be really high. It's like you get into this kind of zone. Or this flow state, and you're good at creating abundance there. You are very good at knowing the difference between an idealistic pursuit and a pragmatic pursuit. And I do have to say that that's actually something I was talking to with someone else earlier today, and that's why I chose that wording, because that's the way he worded it. But it really applies to this reading, in that this, it's like you are good at setting goals, but you don't set goals that are impossible. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, and that your goals might seem idealistic to other people, but you know that you can carry them out, that kind of thing. And I feel like that confidence and that kind of flow state you get into where you're achieving is very attractive to other people. People know that if you wanted it, you could have the world. People also see you as, you might have been told, you're like the perfect person, like you might be somebody who, for maybe your gender stereotypes really, really just fit that stereotype, or for the stereotype of a perfect relationship person to be in a relationship with, or person to be a partner with, or whatever that is, you fit that stereotype really well. Okay. So if you've been told that, it's because they see an archetype with you that you imitate very well. Now, the kinds of archetypes I'm talking about would be archetypes like the mother archetype. You might come across as being particularly motherly, or the father archetype as being particularly fatherly, and people might see you and be like, oh, that person would make a good father, that person would make a good mother. Another archetype you might come across as being very dutiful or loyal, being very chivalric, like a knight, or a lady, somebody of virtue, right? and I think for different people, the archetype's going to be different for those of you who are watching this. But there's some kind of almost like myth that you could fit into, or maybe a story of a hero, right? That you would play that hero. So if you want to know what kind of archetype it is that you present to people, that people are attracted to, you might want to study fairy tales, myth, might want to even take like a BuzzFeed quiz about which goddess you are, or which god you are, or whatever, and start kind of examining some of those themes to see what is that archetype people see in you. Where is that, and when I say that, I mean a pattern of behaviors that evokes a very strong response because they can identify you as a force for good, okay? So communication, yeah. So drowning guy is basically saying that you're really, really good and effective at communicating. And this doesn't just go one way. It's also you're good at listening as well, okay? You might... I'm sorry, I just feel like making this joke. You might have asthma, and you might be a really poor swimmer, so sorry. Sometimes I just can't help it. Okay, but no, seriously, with the communication, you're really good at communicating. You're probably really, like, you probably are either a really good writer, maybe you're a poet, maybe you're really good at languages, maybe you're good at discerning, reading between the lines, that kind of stuff. But I feel like you're really good with rhetoric or something along the lines of some kind of component, but it's specific to language. In actually a previous reading, in this particular set, I got the throat chakra, and it felt like a completely different energy. Yes, there was a communication, but it was a more broad sense. With this, it's more like talking, like literally talking, expressing yourself in words. I feel like that's a big deal with you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't also be good at expressing yourself through other auditory means. I just mean that that's something that people are attracted to, okay? You're effective at communicating, and you're also very effective at just expressing yourself. You're very good at taking a feeling or a thought or some component of what is going on internally and turning phrases and kind of making it, it almost feels mystical and turning this feeling and this essence into words. And these would be things that would be very difficult for the average person to describe. So I feel like that I feel like people connect to that because they see a bit of themselves in that, because it's like you're saying what they're feeling or what they're thinking, but you say it in a way that's so much clearer than they could ever say it, and they admire that, okay? We have this celebration, and it's like, I feel like you are really aware of the things in your life that not only are blessings. This isn't just about being thankful and celebrating the good part, but I feel like you're also really aware of what you do well, and you're able to be a person who might be celebrated for certain skills without taking it to your head too much. And it's like you're at a place, it's almost like you have a lot of grace with accepting praise or accepting compliments and that kind of stuff. So I kind of see you as a person who it's such a nuanced word, you know. I would say it's not humility as much as it is oh no, I lost the word. So now you guys are going to be thinking I think you're not humble. Great. It's more like it's not self-effacing. It's like you are it's almost like you are honestly amazed when people tell you what you do that's so great, because you don't even think about it. So it's like you don't even have the awareness that you're doing something awesome in order to be humbled by it. That's what I mean. So it's like you're very graceful in doing what you do well, because you don't you don't draw any attention to it. That's what I mean. You don't draw attention to yourself because you're good at things. You know, and because you don't, or at least because you're not trying to draw attention, you're not trying to like flex your brain or you know, impress anyone, people end up becoming even more impressed with you. That's what I mean. So this 10 of Swords, this is an interesting dynamic and something that might be a little concerning to some people, but I think that it actually fits with your story very well, in the same way that you have this archetype that people are attracted to. That archetype also has its shadow archetype, okay? So there's the hero, right? Or there's the lady. Let's use that one, okay? There's a lady, you know, who's elegant and maybe beautiful and noble and virtuous, right? And then there's the damsel in distress, okay? So that's more the shadow side of that person. So I feel like when people see your archetype, they see both the positive and the negative of that archetype, right? So, you know, let's use the mother. So there's the mother or the father figure, and then there's the overbearing parent, maybe, or there's the parent that's so enmeshed with their child that they like almost swallow them up. I don't mean literally. So it's like there's the positive and the negative side there. But there's something about the shadow side even that is attractive to other people about you. I want to caution you because for some of you, it might be that people see you as someone who's easy to victimize. And because of that, you might get hurt more easily because of that. Now, I hate saying it, but it's actually true. There are some people that are just easier to victimize than others, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's not or anything. It's just there's a certain set of traits and all of that kind of stuff that predators look for. Okay, that doesn't make. If you're that kind of person where you've found that you've been the victim in a lot of situations, and let's not call it a victim, let's call it a survivor, okay? This is because you have those kinds of traits, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And it's just to let you know at this point that, you know, and this might actually be the most important thing in this reading for you, is that these characteristics can attract people, yes, and they can even attract good people who want to kind of protect you, you know, because that protecting urge in some people is really huge. Like you would be really surprised, maybe, with how much some people will put themselves in that role and really want to play out the hero, the protector, the guarder, that kind of thing. But there's that downside to it as well. What I would suggest for you, because I really don't have all of the information just right in my head, is to go ahead and look up those traits and just a Google search or something like that. You know, what are traits that predators look for to make it easier that might make it easier for them to victimize other people, okay? And by looking at those, you can take those traits and really amp up the positivity of those traits and show a strength with them rather than necessarily showing it as a vulnerability. One of them might be willingness to believe a story that somebody tells because you're trustworthy, right? In fact, I'm pretty certain that's one of them, right? So a predator might be like, okay, well, this person's going to be more likely to believe me if I tell them that, you know, this, whatever it is, you know, something that's going to end up in somebody hurt, okay? You can be the kind of person that's like, you know, ooh, I trust, you know, it's like, I hear what you're saying and I believe that it's probably true, but that's a pretty big statement to make, you know, could you explain that or whatever? And that gives you just enough power for the person to kind of check themselves so that if they are giving you a story, and is not an accurate representation of who they are, they'll most likely back off because you're not buying it, and they'd rather find somebody who would buy it, that kind of thing. So it's as simple as that, right? I just wanted to mention that because it's an important skill to learn. regardless of your gender. Again, it's just, some people are just easier to victimize because of that. And I do have to say, some people, when they victimize other people, they don't even realize they're doing it. It's just a dynamic they learned maybe from their parents or their siblings or something like that, and they just repeat that process, and they're not even aware of it. Not that I'm making excuses for predators at all. No, I'm just saying that we're not always conscious of everything that we do. Okay. And so I think that that's important. So yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because we have the mother of believers, you know, I am spiritually and financially abundant, right? So again, I think that this is just another way of kind of saying that, yes, you're very good at both being kind of an archetype, but being also of the world. And because there's this kind of almost idealized aspect of who you are, or you represent an idea that humans are really attracted to. You show that you have this kind of mastery of both the spiritual world and the physical world, and that can be a difficult role to play. But if you know that's why I said to look up, you know, or maybe even take a BuzzFeed quiz. But seriously, if you look up, you know, different myths and stories and, you know, gods and goddesses and things like that, you'll probably find one that you really identify with. And that will give you that clue as to what that archetype is that people are saying. All right, guys. I know it was pretty long-winded, but I felt like you guys really needed it. And sorry about the jokes about drowning guy. He's just so weird. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you got a lot out of this. I actually really enjoyed giving that reading. Alrighty, hi, those of you who picked the brown bow, here is your reading. Okay, wow, I would imagine that you guys are probably very evolved people because your very first card is around the crown chakra. We're not even talking about the third eye. We're talking about the crown chakra. That's your direct connection to divinity there, you know, which is guidance, support, love, signs, and direction. So there's a huge spiritual element of what makes you attractive, okay? We have the Ace of Pentacles. This is an interesting one. We have the Five of Pentacles too as an attractor. We have harmony. Okay. We have gratitude. And, I apologize. This card, I've had to explain this for every like every single reading I've done so far. I should have done it at the beginning. But this is a divine feminine deck. Okay. And so this particular card I picked to represent the femininity of the viewer. I understand you're not all women, but this is the more soft, yielding side, and each one is going to be associated with either a god or a goddess. Well, I'm sorry, a goddess or a woman who is considered to be holy, that kind of thing. And but anyway, you got Sappho, the poetess, and her. She's a little sensual in her quote, "I love every inch of my body and I love the women in my life fiercely." Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so we've got some really good qualities here. Let's see. I feel like you're very aware of what it means to go up and down the Wheel of Fortune, okay? That's the best way I can put it. You know when you're down that things are going to get better, and you also know that when things are good, that things can get bad, right? But your appreciation for that helps you kind of transcend that human experience or the more earthly experience of what people call good and bad. It's almost like you see that the world is actually really neutral, and it's your attitude towards that makes it either good or bad, that kind of thing. So I feel like what is attractive about you is your endurance and your convictions in the kind of cyclical nature of the world around you. This gratitude card is a little bit deceiving when it's talking about what people are what people find attractive about you, okay? It's because the gratitude isn't necessarily your own. Not to say that you're not grateful for the connections you have, but that other people feel a whole lot of gratitude. They feel blessed when they meet you, when they find you. They're like, oh gosh, I've been looking for a person like this for a long time. You might take on the role of counselor or maybe even spiritual advisor to a lot of people. You're probably a person that people like to open up to just because they feel really comfortable around you. And I feel like you don't even seek it out, but more that people are drawn to you. You're the kind of person that is easy to get along with. And that's why we've got the harmony card too. Because, with harmonizing, we've got multiple things going, we're like literal harmony in music is when you've got multiple melodies going on at the same time and you put them together and they go together really well. It's similar with friendships or relationships when you have multiple people that just go together really well. One problem about this is that a lot of the people that you end up coming into contact with are people who are drawn to you, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's reciprocated. So it can also feel a little taxing as well, because people really end up relying on you a lot, and it can feel at times that you are the one that's just holding up whatever relationship you're in. Okay, it can feel kind of like, well, wait a minute. It's like, wait a minute. I didn't mean to get into a relationship where you're getting a hold of me every day, asking me advice about your life, that kind of thing. One thing about this, though, is that you have the kind of spirit that is able to break that kind of cycle. It might not feel like it sometimes, but I would say probably, but it's pretty much like 100%. It would be very difficult for me to imagine a person getting this reading and not to be like an empath or an emotionally sensitive person or somebody who's very sensitive to energies around you and that kind of thing. And because of that, people are drawn to that because they feel like because you have so much of a well of love and caring and understanding that they feel that it's endless, and that they can get anything from that. Not like that they want to use you, but just that you're just this well of unending love and wisdom, and they don't even realize that it taxes you, or that it can be draining sometimes. So what your challenge isn't in necessarily attracting people, because you attract them, but it's in attracting a kind of person that you will be able to not expend too much energy with. And the way that you do that is by attaching to other people that are like you. It might be easier said than done, but these are the people that have gone through, and you'll know exactly what I mean. I think these are other people that have gone through what I call enormous forces in their lives. They've been through something pretty heavy, something that a lot of people haven't, okay? This would be the kind of person who maybe they lost both of their parents when they were 5 years old, that kind of thing. Somebody who's gone through some kind of real personal tragedy, right? And so in order to adapt to that, they've risen above that, and they have an appreciation for this kind of spiritual side. They have an appreciation for what I call the cycles of the Wheel of Fortune and all of that. And because of that, that is how you are able to find that ideal person. Unfortunately, a lot of you are going to end up finding that person a little bit later in life than maybe most people do, but it will be so much more rewarding. And it's not like you're not going to have options, you'll have plenty of options of people to pair up with if that's your decision. It's just that I feel like I hesitate to use words like these, but I think that for you guys who are getting this reading understand what I mean when I say, you know, that divine other, okay, like that soul connection that you're seeking, the ultimate rewarding relationship, okay, if you're interested in psychodynamics, your anima, your animus, right, you will find that person. And regardless of what kind of relationship you have, that will be the rewarding relationship of your life, in that it will sustain you and you'll be able to sustain the other person, and without either one of you becoming overwhelmed, because you will sustain each other. So it's interesting because you're extremely attractive in that you attract people. It's just that it's almost like a burden for you. I would just say to continue to align yourself with things that are of more of an esoteric level than things that are maybe more worldly. Look to find communities where this is a primary, talking about things like this is a primary thing that people talk about, kind of overcoming the earthly issues that we deal with and finding something more. Now, I am realizing as I'm saying this, I'm almost describing a cult. I'm not asking you guys to join a cult. I'm just asking you to seek like-minded people, and that's it. Okay? I'm not necessarily asking you to go find a personal coach or something like that. No, because you've already made that transformation yourself. You don't need any guidance about how to transform. You just need to find like-minded people who have also transformed and reach this area where physical reality is a little bit, maybe these kinds of people are a little bit detached from physical reality, not because they're, weird in the head or anything, but because they understand that we're not just physical beings. We're also spiritual beings. We're emotional beings. We have so many different facets. That's where you're going to find your person. That's the kind of way you'll find your person. So kind of keep that in mind as well. But in the meantime, you'll be attracting a lot of people, so you don't have a problem there. All right, guys. I hope that made sense. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really like this energy, just so you know. All right, hi. Those of you who picked the white bow, here is your reading. Okay, so we have Faith. Okay, we have the Four of Wands. Sorry, I was looking at this next card, the Tower. Here, I'm sorry, the Tower. Perception, originality. And this card, I've had to explain it for every other reading I've done. This is part of a deck called the Divine Feminine. And I picked this to represent the kind of more feminine side of people. I understand not just women watch this, but also as a way of kind of tuning into what kind of feminine spiritual person or holy person that you might identify with a little bit. Okay, and so we got Mirabai, the saint of true freedom. Love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. Okay, all right. So here's an interesting thing. Here, now you definitely attract people. There's not a problem with that, but I find that very few people attract you. That's not a bad thing, but it can be a lonely thing. And I feel like it's important to mention that it's not that you're not attracted to a lot of people because you have especially high standards or you're unrealistic or anything like that. I think maybe all of us have a little bit of that going on with us, but that's not your issue. Your issue is that you are such a unique individual, and you're so singular, that you need someone who gets you, and many people don't get you. All right. And the freedom to express yourself fully as who you are is so much more important to you than conforming to any kind of relationship. Okay? So what I'm seeing is somebody who's very, very unique. Someone who is extremely smart. That might also be an obstacle. I understand sometimes intelligence can be a big obstacle when it comes to attraction, not because other people aren't attracted to you, but because you need somebody to be on your level. And maybe not a whole lot of people are on your intellectual level, okay? And it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be just all cerebral and robotics, right? It can be, about just how intense your mind goes, or how deep you go, that kind of thing. So I'm not necessarily talking about literal intelligence as measured by, how well you do math. I'm talking about you're perceptive in that you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of depth to your understanding of things, okay? Because you're that perceptive, you come across as being very original. You probably are very original because this kind of depth tends to come with these kind of flashes of brilliance that allow you to see the world in a different kind of way than most people do, and then that comes across as being extremely original. And I would say it's fair to say that you are, right? People are attracted to that. People are attracted, and this is an interesting thing. Because I often bring this kind of concept up in my readings about how sometimes people just don't believe in relationships, or they just don't believe in other people. Like they have like kind of a mistrust that the other person's going to do what they need to do in order to be in a rewarding relationship. I feel like something that's very attracted to you is that people are attracted to you because they see that you believe in them. You see people's potential, and you're able to communicate to them with sincerity that you really believe that they can be basically just as special and original as you are. And it's just because you see that. You see potential, not just in people, but in all things. Here's another reason why it's kind of difficult for you to find a person that you're particularly attracted to. And it's because you've been through a lot. You've been through things that most people haven't. And I do have to mention that there was one other reading that came before yours that kind of had a similar theme. It's not so much the difference between that one and what I'm describing with you guys is that whatever it is you've been through is so singular, so different, that hardly anybody else has been through that, whatever it was. And because of that, it's like people can't even understand what some of the most important things that have happened to you are. They don't understand how that could shape somebody because they genuinely cannot put themselves in your shoes. No matter how empathetic someone is, no matter how emotionally intelligent someone is, they just can't experience that. Or they can't understand that because they would have to experience it in order to get it, right? I see this come up a lot, or this energy come up a lot in people who have mental disorders. And I do have to say, I'm just going to use a personal thing, is that I have a mental disorder, and I find that most people have no clue what I'm talking about when I say that I have major depressive disorder. Most people think that what I'm talking about is that I get down or I get sad, and it's like, no, it's not like that. You would have to experience it really to truly understand the complete numbness that comes over me when I have an episode, or the complete numbness, or the complete the heaviness, exactly how I feel it. Another person might even be diagnosed with depression and still not get my experience of depression, that kind of thing. So when I say that, and just so you guys know, I'm fine. I take medication for it. I've learned that that's the best way to manage it, and I'm fine. Okay, I haven't had a major depressive episode in quite a while, but sometimes I do have times where I feel like I'm kind of slipping a little bit. But I haven't had a full blown episode since, goodness, 11 years maybe, I think, maybe 12. So yeah, don't worry about me. But just know that there are certain singular experiences that other people just can't figure, they can't understand. And so you've got to make a decision. Do I find somebody who does understand what I've been through? Because that's just the way that I can connect to somebody, is somebody who understands this. Or do I, for lack of a better word, settle for someone who's a good person, who genuinely cares about me and all of those kinds of things, but who might not ever be able to really truly understand how important this thing or multiple things are to you, all right? Because of that, you can kind of feel like even in your relationships, even like in any of your relationships, even in your relationships with friends, or coworkers, that you're somewhat outside of the social scope there. And again, it just feels really lonely. But I feel like you've lived with it for such a long time, or you've been living with it to where it is your normal. So it's not really necessarily sad, it's just lonely. It's just like, gosh, when's my person gonna come? Well, I mean, you're a very unique person. And like I said, you have a lot of people to choose from. And if you don't have them like right lined up in a row right now, it's like over the course of your lifetime, you will have many people to choose from, right? But it's about whether or not you want to find that one person or two or three people that have the ability to understand you or not. Or if you want to go with just somebody who's just a generally good person, that, and all that kind of stuff. What I suggest about this, because I ended up, personally in my life, pairing up with somebody that there were certain aspects about me that he couldn't possibly get, right? And then later on, I met a friend who got the things about me that nobody else ever got. And then that was a very rewarding experience. So I've had both sides, right? And so what I can say about this is, if you're serious about finding somebody who can understand you, who really can, and I understand you might not even feel like you can be understood if you were where I was before, just because the whole idea that somebody could understand, seemed impossible to me at the time. But if you do want to find somebody who does, there are other people out there that have had these kinds of very unique experiences that are looking for other people who understand too. So you might want to look to see if there's maybe a web forum or some kind of online group of people who are there to share their unique experience, which might be similar to yours. That would be my advice if you're looking to find somebody who can truly get you. Otherwise, you're just so unique, with the way you look at your approach to life, the way you look at life, the way that you have this kind of undying faith in other people, and how original you are, and how I just feel like you have a lot of wisdom, right? You're going to be attracting a lot of people with those qualities. So you can kind of amp that up to get friends, maybe even to find people to be romantic with and that kind of stuff. But understand that my concern isn't so much on whether or not you can attract somebody, because you definitely can. My concern is more about, well, how can you attract somebody that can actually fill maybe your need to be understood? If it is a need, then, kind of think about that. I gave you one example of how you could do that. You might need to make a list or do some self-reflecting, journaling, meditation, whatever it is that you do to kind of come up with a plan for how you're going to get to find a person like that. Because I actually feel like it's going to take some sort of action on your part. But I can say also, once you find them, you'll know. There'll be no doubt about it that this person has the potential to get you, because that's something that you see in other people, is their potential. That is something that's very important. Yeah. So this is a very different reading than the 5 before, but I think that it's just as important to know what makes you attractive is what can attract you and what can fulfill you. So it ends up giving you a little bit more information than the other people got, because you can see, maybe why you've had issues in areas of friendship and love and stuff like that with connecting to people. All right. Okay. I hope that you enjoyed that reading. I actually enjoyed giving it. So thank you for watching it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I didn't expect it to be so long, but you guys all had such attractive qualities that it ended up going way, way over what I thought it would be. Anyway, I wanted to say that tomorrow I'll put up a reading, which is the weekly general love reading. It's going to be just like the one I put up on Monday, only it's going to be focusing in on your love life. Same deal. We're going to be talking about the next 7 days and what to expect, but in love, okay? And it's going to be for singles as well as people who are paired up and in between, okay? Next week we're going to just do it again. So the schedule is Monday is a weekly general reading, Tuesday and Thursday are the pick a card days, and Friday is a weekly general love reading. And again, that's so that Wednesday and Saturday I can put in any kind of bonus content. And I do have some coming. It's just been a little bit difficult to kind of get that out with, the turn of the year and all the stuff that goes with that. One thing I wanted to say about the readings that I offer, and if you want to get a if you want to get a private reading, I used to have a thing called priority readings. I don't offer them anymore. But if you want to get a private reading, then that information is going to be in the description, or you could just send me an email, however way you want to do that, it's fine. But what I wanted to say is that I offer certain kind of packages, like 3 questions or 6 questions or this love reading or whatever. And I just wanted to say that the love reading, it doesn't necessarily have to be about love. It can be just any relationship, okay? And if you want to customize a reading for you specifically that might not be what I offer, we can come up with that, and we can come up with a different price. So I'm definitely very flexible with that. So I did want to kind of say that, because some people are really inflexible with what they're offering and all of that kind of thing. But I just wanted to let you guys know there's that. And then lastly, with those readings, I also want to share that I don't advertise it, but I love to do readings about exploring some kind of aspect of spirituality that a person might be either having difficulty with or something that a person is trying to understand. Maybe there's some kind of paranormal or otherworldly experience you've had. Maybe there's a dream. I'm very, very good at dream interpretation. And I say that like, oh yeah, I think I'm so great. But no, that's how I got started with this, is understanding the symbols and dreams. So, for example, if you would like a dream interpreted, or if you would like help in trying to figure out, this thing happened right after someone I knew died, or this, just these things keep happening and it seems like I'm going through maybe a spiritual transformation or whatever, I can provide that service. It's just that because it's so vague, it's really hard to put on my site like, okay, this is a kind of reading I offer and this is how much it is, because it's such a personal experience. But I did want to share with you guys that I do provide spiritual guidance as well, okay? you know, and I just wanted to kind of let you guys know. And that would be another thing to just email me about, and I could tell you, you know, what that would look like and how much that would cost. And I can already tell you that compared to my other readings, it would cost a lot less, just because it takes less energy for me to do that than it does for me to read more earthly situations, let's put it that way. Anyway, and I probably should start saying this at the beginning of videos, but I just don't want to be that kind of person that's all like, yeah, smash that subscribe button and leave a comment and hit that like, and you know, I just don't want to be like that. I think people like that are annoying. But I do want to say, I love your comments. Thank you so much for leaving them. I read all of them and I value all of them. I also want to say that it is always great to see the likes, you know. It lets me know that I'm putting out quality content and all of that kind of good stuff. And if you want to subscribe, know that I will deliver when it comes to content. But if you don't worry about it, okay? Just do what you want to do. I'm not sitting here telling you that you must do these things. Just know that I appreciate it. And you know, I appreciate even the person that views and maybe doesn't like it, you know. I just appreciate that people are interested enough to watch my videos, and that's it, you know. So anyway, that said, though, I do like the community that we're building and that's continuing to grow. It's exciting to see the channel growing and all of that kind of stuff. It's exciting to see the different kinds of people that come and leave comments more routinely, and how that, you know, certain people come up more and more, and you know, it's fun for me. So just thank you for participating. I mean, that's really what I wanted to say, is thanks for participating, because that kind of feedback lets me know what I'm doing good, what I'm doing right, and maybe also what I'm doing wrong. So, you know, just know that I appreciate it. And that said, I hope you have a good rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow with the weekly general love reading. It'll be a lot shorter.